as you know, product management is the hottest domain out there these days, and for a good reason. After all, our job, although exhausting, is rewarding, and we're the coolest guys around. But with product teams getting bigger and bigger, PM hiring becomes even more challenging. And today, we are going to learn together how to hire product managers the right way. Hello, leaguers, and welcome to today's Product Book Club, where we discuss a fantastic book together with the book author and not less than 9 of our mentors. Growing your product team is exciting, but it also involves many risks. You need to hire the right person for the job and for the company. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what we're going to teach you today. By the way, I am Moriya Kassis, founder and general manager of Product League, and what we do is helping you to become the best product manager you can be. Product League is an international product management mentoring program for product managers by product managers. And if you are new here, please type new in the comments because I want to meet you. You should come by our live events every Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with no further ado, I am so happy to welcome to the stage the wonderful Kate Leto, live from London. How are you today?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm great. So happy to have you here with us. And just so you guys know why I'm so excited about having Kate here, Kate Leto has had front row seat to the evolving ways products are discovered, defined, built, and delivered. And now takes her hands-on experience into organizations of all shapes and sizes as a consultant, coach, and advisor, helping them to create authentic, high-performing culture, teams, and products. Her consulting experience has taken her around the world, guiding clients that range from disruptive startups to Fortune 500 companies and help them. Kate's first book, Hiring Product Managers, Here With Me, is now available and is going to be the star of this event today. Can't wait to talk with you about that. And before we will start, I want to ask the audience to be as engaged as possible. We have some questions to ask you to get to know you better. We are going to chat a little about the book, Kate and I, and then we'll have the mentors joining us for a fantastic and so valuable Q&A where you will learn their questions and Kate's answers. So it's going to be super valuable to everyone who is looking to grow their product management team. And more than that, it actually may be relevant also for those who are looking for a job, because then you can get into the mindset of what is good hiring and how can you know that you are at the right place for you. Kate, shall we start?
Yes, by all means.
Perfect.
And thank you very much for having me. I know we've been...
The pleasure is mine. I just want the guys to know we are talking about this session for, I think, 4 months now.
Yeah, I know. Since the book came out, I think in September, and I think we started talking about it before that. So I'm glad we could finally make it happen.
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm happy to have this happen. And the first question that we want to ask the audience is about their current status. So we will know who are we engaging with. So Kate, what do you want to ask the audience? And we would like you guys to comment, to use the chat, to choose either 1 or 2, so we will get to know you better. So take the stage, Kate. What do you want to ask them?
So the question is, I'm just curious where you are right now. Are you looking for a product role, or are you hiring for a product role?
Exactly.
And if you
so
could,
guys,
yes, just put 1 or 2 in the chat. That would be great.
Exactly. And that leads us to the second question, where let's step into the mindset that our viewers currently have. And we want to ask you guys, what do you think are the right characters to look for in a candidate? And maybe, Kate, maybe you can tell us a little more about this question because it's super important for the rest of our chat together.
Yeah, just to kind of set the scene and give us some perspective on where you guys are coming from with your experience with hiring. So when you do look to hire someone, do you usually look for technical mastery, meaning like really good skills at things like our product roadmaps or doing OKRs or A/B testing, putting together MVPs, a lot of the things that make up kind of core competencies of our product practice on the technical side? Or do you maybe look for relevant experience? So do you want to make sure that this person has done this kind of work before in this kind of market? So if you're looking, are you looking for an e-commerce person? Do you kind of focus on that specifically? Or do you look for what I call human skills, which are things like making sure this person has a good level of maybe conflict resolution skills, or that they have good social influencing skills or leadership skills or self-awareness even? Or do you look for like background? Sometimes this is called pedigree. So maybe where this person went to school. You're looking for a certain kind of network, a certain kind of like social group, or maybe where they're from, a specific country even, a region. So it's just to give me an idea about what you look for when you hire.
That's great. And let's go back to the previous question while the audiences answer the latest one. We ask you about your current status. Is it one, you are looking for a product role, or is it a second, you are hiring now for the product role? And I can tell you that we have Amnon who's saying, I'm hiring. We have Tajurames, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, who's also hiring. We have Fumi who is searching for a role. We have Asaf who is hiring Tomer who is hiring, Nofa that is looking for a role. That is awesome because we get to know you guys and we can deliver content that is more valuable to you. Thank you so much. Keep on commenting because it's great. And going forward to the other question that we asked you guys, so I can share with you that in the comments we see that the majority of responses are as for relevant experience. So 75% of those who just replied about answering this question are choosing to hire someone with relevant experience, and we have 25% choosing technical mastery. That's a little surprising to me, but this is great. This is exactly why we are having this session and we're having this call with the guys.
Yeah.
We now have someone who chose human skills. So it is so interesting to see, what are the different parts of the puzzle and how each one of us prioritize them differently. Continue with the commenting because it's super valuable to us and we get to know you and we can deliver better content to you. And I can already share with you that we have people from all over the world joining here, and it's just amazing to see how this is such a relevant topic for all product managers and product leaders around the world. Kate, shall we move to the next question in the poll?
Great.
Okay, so now it's getting juicier and getting more interesting. And we want to ask the guys about the job description. And from here, the stage is yours. Talk more about the question.
Yeah, so the question was, maybe I should give a little context around the book and how these questions feature in,
Perfect.
or how they relate. So in the book, as you showed a copy, I happen to have a copy too. So the book is about hiring product managers using product EQ to go beyond culture and skills. And within the book, it really tells a story of kind of a case study of some work that I've done with clients in the past. And it tells a story of a group of product people at a financial services organization that is trying to go through a change, like go through a transformation and build up a strong product organization. And they feel like the best way to do that is kind of hire their way through it, right? So they've decided they're just going to hire a bunch of new product managers, and that will basically help them, build all the products they want to build them in the way they want to build them, and that'll answer everything. So I go through, and this is based on a lot of experiences I've had with clients over the years, actually, as a consultant and coach. So I use this story as the backdrop for talking about how we can change our approach to not just hiring, but how we think of product management. In product management, we talk a lot about those technical skills that everybody was voting for, right? Things like having like a great roadmap or building OKRs or doing design sprints and discovery phases and all of those great things. But in my mind, and based on my experience, that's only kind of part of what we do. Maybe that is what we do. Those are the things we do, but we don't really talk as much about how we do them. And that's what I call the human skills. And that's where I think things like conflict resolution and leadership and influencing skills, creativity, originality are really the things that kind of separate us from, our competitors and actually help us build better products and better product organizations. So through the book, I kind of go through this journey with the team and working with them to understand what a balanced product management practice really is, and that it takes these technical skills and these human skills, and that we can find different ways of focusing on human skills in our hiring. And the first way to do that is actually thinking about the role that you're hiring for. A lot of people, when we're first looking to hire someone, I know when I was a head of product many moons ago, when I got a new headcount, it was like Christmas Day. It was very exciting. It's like, oh, I can hire someone, and that means they can do the work, and I don't have to do the work anymore, and I could go do new things. So I would always start by going to my desk and typing. I was starting to kind of cut and paste a job description together based on what I saw from industry leaders and from competitors and things like that. So that's where that's the inspiration behind this question, is really trying to understand how our attendees, how everybody who's joining us today, what they first do when they're given a new headcount. What's their first action? I can't remember what I posted as. Okay, here we go. So do you reformat other people's job descriptions? Take, as I used to do, kind of cut and paste. Do you talk to your team and stakeholders to try to get an understanding of where they are? Do you just start looking for new candidates? So what do you do? 1, 2, or 3?
Exactly, guys. Let us know, because we want to know your process and how it's done in your team and in your company. You got the budget to hire someone new for your product team. What is the first thing you do? And as Kate just said, you're searching, for formats of job descriptions of other companies, and you reformat for your needs. Or you talk with your team and stakeholders, and you try to get a better understanding what is it that they are looking for in this new hire. I hope Kate will join us. And the third option is look for recommended candidates. So you ask your network to recommend hiring someone that you can hire, possible hirings. And we have reformats other job description. This is one of the things that you choose. Andrew here is saying typically 1, because HR requires a job description in order to move forward. So the first thing Andrew is sharing with us that he does is exactly that, reformat others' job description. And some of you look for recommended candidates. Right on. And Amnon is saying here, since I already have a job description, it starts looking for candidates. So if we're looking for a process here, is first finding by Amnon first to find what is the right job description for him, and then look for recommended candidates. And we have one guy here, Tomel, who choose talk to my team and stakeholders. And this is such a critical point that we are going to discuss again later on. And the last question we have for you guys for now is, what's the worst interview question you've ever been asked? And Kate, explain to the audience, why are we asking this question?
Yeah, sure. So we're asking the question because after building instead of doing a traditional job description, as I talk about in the book, I recommend building a role that really matters and using a role canvas that I've created that you can find on my website actually and download. And you can use that with your team and with your stakeholders and your recruiters and everybody together to create a role that's really meaningful and that has human skills and technical skills. And then once you have that role together and you've created a job description from that, and you're ready to start interviewing people, it's time to think about what kind of questions we're going to ask in order to help us figure out if this candidate's someone that would actually be a really good new addition to our organization. So in order to kind of, before talking about good questions, I think sometimes it's more interesting to talk about the worst questions we've been asked. And I've heard some doozies over the last few months. So if you've been asked a really bizarre, terrible interview question, I'd love to hear about it.
Yes, it's not just because it's juicy, it's because we can actually learn from that.
Right.
And one of the guys here is sharing that the worst that he was asked is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Kate, what do you
Yeah.
think about this question?
Oh, you know what? I've heard that so many times from people, and I think it's a terrible question because we have no idea what's going to be going on in 5 years. And I don't think it really tells us much about the person that we're interviewing. You know, it doesn't really help us understand if this person at this point, you know, in time has the human skills or the technical skills to deliver what we're looking for. So I think it's one of those very standard questions that gets asked because people really haven't spent the time thinking about good questions to ask. So I
Talking about
sympathize that you got that question.
Yes, and you're spot on because we are continuing with a variety of standard questions here in the chat.
Yeah.
We have another one from Amnon. The worst he was asked is, what's your worst trait or attribute?
What's your worst what?
Trait.
Oh, trait or really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and Asaf is saying that the words that he was asked is, why do you think you are the best candidate for this role before sharing any details about the role?
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. There's not, yeah, exactly. That helps a lot, doesn't it?
Exactly. And Elad is sharing, what did your manager tell you in your last employee review?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's quite interesting. I'd love to know if you gave an honest answer.
That's a great question. What do you think about this question that Elad shared with us?
Yeah, I think, you know, they're very standard. And, you know, I remember when I was younger and as a head of product many years ago again, and did interviewing, what I used to do, I'm just as bad. I'm just as guilty. I used to go kind of online like a few minutes before an interview and I'd Google like those brain teaser questions that people at Google would ask or Amazon would ask. And then I'd feel all clever and I'd go into my interview and I'd ask this question. And it would just stump the poor person that I was interviewing. And what I've learned over the years is questions like that and some of these standard questions just don't really help us understand how this person might behave in a work, you know, in our work environment, how they might interact with our team members and our organization. So in the book, I talk a lot about behavioral-based interview questions, which are actually proven to be extremely relevant and helpful and meaningful when it comes to interviewing people because they help you understand very simply how someone's behaved in a work situation in the past and how they may behave if they don't, you know, unless they change their actions and their thinking and their behaviors, how they may behave going forward. And they're really simple questions. And they relate back to human skills. So I'll give you an example. So let's say that you decided that for this new role, you needed to hire someone with conflict resolution skills. Let's say there's been a lot of tension on your team and you need somebody who's going to be able to handle that really well. So there are really some basic questions that you can ask people to understand how they behaved in times of tension before. A simple question like, what happened the last time someone asked you or disagreed with something you said? How did you respond? How did you handle it? The questions aren't meant to really throw people off. They're just meant to really understand how they would react in that kind of situation or how they've behaved in the past. So I'm not surprised at all by these types of questions. And if when you get a chance to buy the book and read the book, you'll actually see that there's some very simple questions that you can ask to actually help you really understand how a person would react and would behave within your organization.
Right. And Elad is saying that yes, actually he did share the right
Did
review.
you?
We have honest people here. We have the
Well,
best of
that's
the best.
really good.
It is, it is. And Kate is sharing her worst question as you're on a plane and it's crashing. What do you do now?
Oh, really? Somebody asked you that?
Exactly. And we see again that someone is asking a candidate about a role without the candidate really knows what is it, the role that is discussed. And Corina
Oh.
is sharing it as that her worst asked question is, what do you think the role will be like?
I don't know, Karina, if I were you, I think I would have turned that right around and been like, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think the role is going to be like?
Yes, and something interesting pops here in the comments. Alon is saying that he was asked about a job, well, not a job, service in the army that he had 20 years ago. So 20 years before he was interviewing. And
Uh-huh.
this is a great topic for us to discuss before we are starting our session with the mentors, as for when we are looking at the optimal interview process. What do you think about the relevancy of really past, far in the past, positions that the person we are interviewing have been to?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, no matter whatever experience you've had in the past, it looks like in this question, I'm trying to read it, was in the Army about something
Yeah.
about, yeah. No matter if that experience or what you did in that role is perfectly transferable or meaningful to this new role, it was an experience. It was something you learned from. So, well, I don't necessarily think it has to be something that you, like in your CV, you have to go all the way back and include every job you've ever had. If in an interview, somebody may ask you, what's the craziest job you've ever had? Now that I think that's a great question. Or something like that. And I think the thing to do there, when they're going back, they want to go way back into a previous experience that may not seem relevant. There's probably some kind of learning, some kind of lesson, some kind of experience that shaped you over the years and has helped make you who you are now. So I think it's interesting to think of our our work experience, our job experience as kind of in a narrative flow. Where have you come from? What have you learned along the way? And how has that brought you to where you are now? For example, I'll give you a total random example that just came to mind. So one of the things I do quite often in my work is I facilitate. I facilitate workshops. I facilitate leadership sessions and things like that. And facilitation is more than just kind of organizing a meeting. It's actually helping a group of people move through work that they need to do to come to a new outcome, to come to an outcome that is going to help them move their business or their work ahead in some way. And I realized, I think my very first facilitation role actually came when I was maybe about 10 or 11 years old. And I come from a very big Italian American family, and I would facilitate all of my aunts and cousins and all the women in the family through generations in singing the 12 days of Christmas every year. There's probably about 40 or 50 in a room, and I would facilitate the whole thing. So I think in some ways, well, has nothing to do with me talking to somebody about a new engagement now. In my mind, it helps me understand where my enjoyment and perhaps where my skills in facilitation are coming from. So we can find different nuggets of experience in various areas. We just have to kind of take the time and think about it and reflect about it. And I think it's a really good opportunity to do that when you are interviewing, right? Because you're kind of forcing yourself not to just sit down and write a CV with all your bullet points, but to actually think of where you're coming from, what you've done that you really enjoyed, how you can talk about that, and how that can relate to really what you want to be doing next. Maybe not in 5 years from now, but with this next role.
Spot on. I love it. And I think it is the right moment to call into the stage the fabulous mentors who are joining us. And guys, the idea behind this product book club is to offer you the most actionable content. And to do that, we send the book to 9 of our program mentors, and we ask them to read it, and we ask them to ask questions. So we're now going to have Q&A live with our mentors and Kate, where they will share real concerns about hiring product managers that they have in their day-to-day, and we'll have a open and valuable discussion. And just let's dive in. What do you say, Kate? Are we ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Loving it. Perfect. So joining us live from New Zealand, let's say hello to Corina Stukan, VP Product at Rome and Product League Mentor.
Hi, Karina.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
So happy to have you here with us. And from Bangalore, we have Amit Pandita joining us, the stage product manager at Flipkart and Product League Mentor. From London, we have Ruth, I'm going to say it the right way, Gutov Rackengel, joining us, head of product at Dr. Care Everywhere and Product League Mentor. Joining us live from San Francisco is Yaniv Yakubovic, VP Product Management at True Local and Product League Mentor. Joining us from... Hi, Yaniv. Joining us live from Tel Aviv, please welcome Chen Shear, Product Management Consultant and Product League Mentor. And from Lisbon, let's welcome Zvika Solan, Product Manager at Timeshift. Hello, hello.
Hello.
And Product League Mentor. How are you today?
Good.
Happy to have you here with us.
How's everybody else? I'm assuming Oh, am I the only unmuted one? Well, in that
No,
case, hello.
no.
Let's have a conversation.
It's an open conversation, guys. You are the guests. From San Francisco, please shout out a big hello to Kurt Prince, Product Management Consultant and Product League Mentor.
Hello.
Hello. And from Amsterdam, we have Seema Chatterjee, joining the stage, co-founder at Sonito Innovations and Product League Mentor. Guys, I think it's the biggest crowd we had until today at our stage, and I'm so happy. I love to see the shirts, the Product League shirts that some of you are wearing again. Exactly. Go, Ruth. And I just can't wait to hear your questions and see what Kate will have to share with us. And the first question is from you, Zvika. We are all ears.
All right, let me go. First of all, I wanted to thank you, Kate, for sharing the book with us. Excellent job. I love it. So well written, super easy to read and easy to understand. Congratulations on the book. And thank you, Moriya, for putting together the event. Really appreciate it. This is really cool. I love doing this type of stuff, and it's really fun. The question that I had as I was kind of in the back of my mind throughout the book, not in any one specific part of the book, but the whole time, kind of something that kept coming back to me, was wondering how much of what you're describing in a hiring process can actually be used for non-product managers. Maybe not so much for junior roles, but maybe for leads and above, for people that you want to be on your team and basically have that kind of product mentality or thinking. So this is what I would ask you, is how much do you think applies to non-product management roles?
Yeah, a lot, actually. And that's, done kind of on design, because while I work specifically with product managers, I also work with various departments and kind of organization-wide quite often. So, and the feedback I've gotten on the book so far, quite similar to yours, is even within our product world, in our cross-functional teams, it's the same. The practices that I talk about in the book are applicable for hiring designers, hiring engineers, and having the same types of conversations. So just to give everyone a little more, those who haven't had a chance to read the book, a little more context, I talked before about this idea of having a product management practice that's based on technical skills and human skills. And while that is very relevant for product managers, because we're kind of in this strange role, this strange position where we're working with so many different types of personalities and have so many different kind of complex problems to solve day in, day out. It's not that we're kind of snowflakes, right? There's a lot of other pieces and groups within an organization that deal in similar circumstances. So, I've had colleagues and friends of friends who have said, well, it would work, this is applicable to me, and they're in the medical field. I've had the same kind of feedback from people that work within kind of more HR roles specifically, but even in like finance, even in kind of acquisition groups as well. So yeah, it's the ideas and the practices that I talk about within are design for product people, but are applicable very widely.
Great. Thank you so much, Kate. And just 1 second, Svika, if we'll have anything to share, we are waiting for that. But Kate, there is some noise in the background, so please make sure that your mobile is standing right, nothing is touching it, so we won't have any effects on the audio.
Yeah, I've been noticing that too, and I've been trying to move my phone around to get rid of it, and I'm not sure what it is.
So let's not play with it. Just keep it still. Let's keep it still.
Yeah, no, we don't want it to go away, do we? Yeah.
The audience has a real life experience of streaming, and with working from home, we are all used to these technical issues every day. So no worries about that. We are handling that, and we have the fantastic mentors to ask questions in the meantime. Svika, before we are moving to Amit's question, do you have anything to add on what you just asked the guys?
No, not really. I mean, I think that's great to hear. I like that. I'm interested in this kind of product management mentality or product thinking, if you will, and thinking about how you can apply that to other members of the team that you would want to work with because you're in the process of hiring them. And thinking about how that applies with empowered product teams, thinking about Marty Kagan's idea about, if you're trying to get an empowered product team, you need everybody on that team to basically have that same mentality and thinking and drive to want to get the product out. And I loved everything in the book, and that's why it kept coming back to me about how I wish we would have done that hiring process for other people, not necessarily just product managers where I'm involved with the hiring.
Yeah,
and you got Kate excited about Marty.
Hello?
Yeah.
Kate?
Yeah, hello? So actually Marty's read, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Marty's read the book actually and wrote a nice review of it. And he said just that actually, that the practices and the tools in the book and the thinking can be applied much more widely to engineers and designers and beyond. Nice. So I was very happy that Marty gave me the thumbs up too.
Nice.
It's always nice.
Yeah.
A very, very nice guy. And we are moving to you, Amit, with your question.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Kate. Can you guys hear me clear? Am I audible?
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for sharing the copy. It was incredibly insightful. I got an opportunity to read it, just like a day ago. My question is more to do with the chapter number 2 that talks about the job descriptions. Specifically about, if you talk about the giant tech organizations, for the likes of, let's say, Amazon, or some big organization which sort of end up doing a lot of acquisitions and mergers, wherein you have multiple business units inside them, and every business unit kind of has their own culture and the way of working. When you sort of, let's say, when a product organization sort of ends up acquiring as diverse as a service company, which I've also seen in my little experience, how should the leaders sort of be cognizant of the fact, how should they keep this in their head, of making sure when they're hiring, making sure that the right product person fits in to that certain business unit. If I have to sort of elaborate that, um, let's say if there's a company, if there are certain kind of PMs working for an e-commerce division, and you suddenly sort of acquired a gaming startup, right? Now the kind of product thinking, and like you were mentioning, right, there are some must-haves and some good-to-haves, right? How do you sort of make sure that you're understanding the job description and hiring the right fitment for a right business unit? So I just wanted to know your insights on this. How do you balance that, and how do you identify that first? So
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question back to you because it was really interrupted quite a bit. So tell me if I have this
sure,
right.
sure.
So the question is, how do, within larger organizations with various business units, how do we make sure that hiring somebody for one business unit would be relevant for another one, like that it would fit the wider culture,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
Did I get it? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
So it's a really good question because what I talk about in the book, as you know, is trying to build up and kind of influence a product organization's culture, by focusing on human skills, and by being more meaningful in how we hire. So I think what often will happen, especially at first when you start this kind of work, is it will start small, and it may be applicable to or influence one business unit, or even maybe just a team within a business unit. As in the book, I started out just working with one team. But from my experience, a team is a really amazing unit of change. So if we start with one team and start to kind of work on hiring and thinking about what product management is in a different way, and other people get attracted to that, and they see the changes getting created, then it can spread out to a wider organization and have a bigger influence. So just because I think perhaps that maybe you do change your way of hiring and how you think about product management in one area of a much larger organization, I don't know if that's necessarily bad. I think that's where change often starts, and where that first initial spark comes from. I think it's essential, it's not essential, but it's important that people do, to some extent, have alignment with that organization's underlying values, right? So, and those values may be getting interpreted or lived in different ways in different parts of that product organization, but the values are still tying people together. So if your job description and if your human skills are perhaps kind of slightly different from one part of an organization to another, I don't think that's bad, but I think it's kind of an interesting way to experiment with how you can change the organization overall. Sorry, somebody has something.
It's the day of all technical issues possible. Everything is happening. Yeah, I think we're hearing your neighbors, Kate. But we will manage that. Are you back, Kate? Okay, so
Hello?
in the...
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Welcome back. Kate? Now we can hear you. Yeah, talk.
Hello, hello, hello.
We hear you. We are all ears. Okay, so Kate will join us in hopefully a minute. You guys have the opportunity and honor of saying what is it to do live streaming, where anything that can go wrong will go wrong, just like with anything else that has to do with product management. So we're facing it together, we're dealing with it together, and we'll deal with that with smiles. And Kate is back. Kate, happy to have you back.
I'm back. I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay. So we were talking about hiring when there are different units in the company, different business units, and each one may have to be located in another geography or has another kind of culture element to it. And how can we overcome that? Do you want to add anything on that question by Amit before we're moving on?
Can I just add one thing to it as well? Is that cultural differences are something to always take note on. Of course, geographies, we're all going to have, we're going to be thinking in different ways, we communicate in different ways. And I think that's important to acknowledge, and that should always be part of any kind of global hiring initiative, to acknowledge that different geographies will have perhaps a different take on values overall. And we'll be looking for a different type of human skill and technical skill from someone, perhaps. So I think that's a really good point.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kate. We are moving to Chen. And Chen, just so the guys in the audience will have a better understanding of why are you asking about this specific question, can you share a little more about this kind of meeting and sessions that was discovered in the book by Kate, and then we will dive into the question.
Yes. So on chapter 3, Kate tells us about the session that the entire product team, I don't know if the entire, but a lot of product people or everyone that has some relations to the hired product manager group together, and they actually need to decide what type of a product manager they're looking for, their skill, their anything that he needs to know, and his background, and anything that he needs to be. And they actually create kind of a canvas that afterwards becomes the team, the actual job requirements and job description. So I was going to look at it in a different way by asking, how do you actually bring those people in? What do you tell them about this session? How do you encourage them to be open and to stay very, very honest when their manager could be at the room, their boss could be at the room? And I think that in Pete's case, it was even very, very sensitive, because they were supposed to be open and say things that could be very hurtful for him. So I was wondering how first you bring them in, and what do you tell them, and how do you open the conversation? And second, how do you make sure that once they're there, they know what they need to do and be very open about it?
Pre-corona, you would tell them that there's free food. Post-corona, I don't really know, but I'll let Kate take that. But I just thought I would add that, because usually if we wanted to have someone in a meeting, you would tell them.
I remember those days. Free sandwiches. I did it every time.
Those were the days.
So what you're referring to from the book is using a role canvas, which I talked about a bit earlier in the conversation as well. And the role canvas is meant to actually help the team and a broader team. So it could be the people that are on your cross-functional team, right? So it could be the designers, the engineers, the data scientists, the researchers, whoever is on your cross-functional team, as well as your managers. It could be the stakeholders that this role will be working with quite a bit. And the idea is to bring people together. I would say no more than 10 people, at a maximum. And you can do this online even, right? You can go to my website and download the canvas and do this as a virtual session. But the idea is to bring people together to talk about 4 simple things, well, seemingly simple, right? What's the purpose of the role? So not just the job title, but the purpose of the role itself. What are the accountabilities for this role? So what outcomes are they going to be working for? What are they responsible for? And then what human skills and technical skills will this role need in order to be successful and deliver these outcomes. And the idea is to collaborate on this very transparently and openly early on, and do that before you start interviewing, so that there's alignment on who you're really looking for and what kind of role you really need. And to do it actually before you start meeting people and starting to put faces with certain kind of characteristics and traits, to get an alignment and agreement before all that happens. And so on the surface, that's kind of what we're asking the group to do in a workshop. But underneath, what's actually going on is that as you are doing things like listing out the human skills that this role would really need to be successful, it could be things like conflict resolution or leadership or influence or self-awareness or innovation, whatever it might be, you're actually individually and as a team learning about these skills too, right? Because you're having to talk about them and you're having to list them and prioritize them and think about how you could maybe see in an interview process, how you can maybe see if a candidate has these skills. So it's something that it can be done, in a very kind of benign way by just kind of going through the questions itself. But as teams get used to talking about human skills, they're going to get more comfortable with it. And so, yeah, it could be that there is a little more tension that comes up around what are we really looking for? What does this person really need to be able to bring that's new to our organization and our team? And to be honest, I think it's a perfect time to have that conversation before you hire somebody new versus after. So that's kind of how I frame it, and that's how I encourage people to try it. It's one of those types of workshop sessions that could get juicier the more often you do them, because you'll be able to have more kind of real-time debates over what are we really looking for? What does this role really need to be? How is it different than the other roles that we have here? How is it the same as the other roles we have here? And that type of thing.
And how do you choose the people that will be there in the room in those sessions?
So, I often think of product teams working in cross-functional teams, right? So I would invite the people on your cross-functional team. So it's the product person, perhaps engineers, designers, maybe you have a usability person or a UX person as well. So I bring those people. I'd also invite a manager, your manager, whoever is going to be really influential in working with this person if you can, and other stakeholders throughout the organization that are going to be working closely with this person, and get alignment on what are you really looking for before you start interviewing.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Super interesting. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Han. And we are moving to you, Kurt. What's your question?
Hey, what is really great about this, your book, is not only does it talk about the hiring process, but the impact that it can have overall in the organization itself, outside of the traditional hiring. I love a couple of your suggestions, but I want to talk to you about kind of these check-in and check-out questions. How do you incorporate them organically so that they don't feel formulaic, or they don't feel like HR effort of the month, or words have eye rolls from
just remind the audience, what do you mean when we're talking about the check-in questions?
Yep, sure. So a check-in question is a very quick question that's asked at the beginning of meetings to kind of help bring people and bring presence to a meeting. Within our days, even now, that we're often working from home and we're on Zoom all day, we're often going from one meeting to another meeting, and we don't really have time to bring our focus from one meeting to another meeting, or perhaps we have kids and pets running around in the background, so it's hard to be focused. So a check-in meeting is a very simple question that you ask at the beginning of a meeting to just to help everyone become more present to where they are. So a typical check-in question might be, what has your attention? That's a pretty formulaic one. What has your attention right now? And then what you do is you go around the room, virtual or otherwise, and everyone has a chance to respond to that question. And there's no conversation, there's no crosstalk. It's just that person has a voice for that moment. And what it also does is it helps kind of it gives everyone a chance to actually say something and start to engage from the meeting early on. Because as we all know, a lot of times we have pretty dominant voices in meetings, right? And sometimes some people can really be the bears of a meeting and be doing all the talking, and a lot of other people may just kind of sit back more. So this check-in type of question gives everyone a chance to respond and to get their voice heard and to start to engage. They usually take maybe 5 minutes if you ask simple questions like that. Sometimes I actually have a whole database list of check-in questions. So to make them non-formulaic, a lot of times I'll just change up what the question is and try to make it as relevant to whatever I'm working on or whatever we're going to be talking about at the time. You know, it could be, like I said, what has your attention right now? And I've heard people say things, come back with like, well, my partner just got the bad news, so that's on my mind. Or I've just been working on, one guy I asked this to yesterday in a Zoom call, said, well, I've been really thinking about our hiring strategy and how we're going to be making all these hires in Q1. And so that really has my attention. It just gives people a chance to kind of put that out there. But you can also ask like crazy questions like, at one workshop I asked, what was your favorite TV show from the 80s? Of course, that's dating me that I could answer that question. Or if you could be anywhere in the world right now for 5 minutes and then right back to where you are, where would you go? And you get all the types of different reactions to that. Or you could ask something like, what are you bringing to today's meeting and what are you wanting to get out of it? So there's a lot of variety in the type of questions you can ask. But the purpose is pretty much, the underlying purpose is the same, to get present and to give everyone space to talk. And then at the end, the checkout is very similar. One of the questions that I often ask is, what did you notice or what did you learn in today's meeting? And what the purpose behind that is, it helps us all kind of check our alignment to see if we're all leaving that room with the same understanding of what's just happened, you know. And it also is a good point of reflection. You know, what did I really just notice happen in this meeting? Maybe it was something, someone else's body language versus something that we talked about for an hour. So in order to not make them too, you know what it is? It's interesting. The more I do them, they become habit and they become something I look forward to versus something that I'm forced to do or forced to ask people to participate in. And
are there any meetings where they're not appropriate? I mean, I've been in kickoff meetings where there's 30, 40 people there, and to go around these huge tables, everyone would be like, oh, got this again. You know,
well, you can do something really simple for something like that and say, I just want one word. You know, what's your mood this morning? Give me one word. So there are different ways you can do it to try to make it not too long. But I understand it could become a longer conversation, which is not what we're looking for.
Sure.
Something that I found that helps in these type of settings is that everybody write a note with their answer, and you only pick a few randomly to say it
or
out
ask
loud.
People who would like to share, right? And listen to it that way as well.
This is great. Out of curiosity, let's do a quick survey here. Raise your hand if you used these questions before. Okay. So it is a majority. Okay, great. I was, eager to know your reply on that. Great.
If I just may chime in, like another thing that I learned from a colleague, a product management colleague of mine recently, was to, in an online setting, also in a group where it's a large group and you don't want to deal with the amount of time it's going to take, what we've done is ask people to describe their feeling about something with an emoji. And so they just and we use like a team whiteboard. We use Miro. I don't get any money from them, so great product, but if you guys want to use it, you should try. But like we use a team whiteboard together, and everybody goes into this little space and just puts in the emoji of like their feelings about X, Y, Z, whatever the question might be. And that's easier and faster to do than, especially with a larger group of people.
Yeah. And I've actually seen on a mural, they have a couple of really good check-in exercises that you can do as a group really quickly to help get things moving. So there's some, now that virtual is the default, there's a lot of interesting tools out there that we can use to help make check-in a little bit different.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for all of you who took part in this wonderful question. And we are moving to Yaniv, and then is Ruth.
Thank you. Hi, Kate. Thank you for sharing the book with us, and thanks all of my panel colleagues. I wanted to ask specifically about your sections about interviewing. There is this tendency of getting everybody to speak with the product manager candidate, the marketing person and the hiring manager, and this person wants a take-home exam, and then there is a panel and so on. And I totally understand, because product managers tend to have to work with everybody in the organization, or most every function in the organization. But how do you make the right balance between a rigorous process where you meet the right people and an overwhelming process where the candidates say, I can't meet anymore?
Kate, you are on mute. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
There we go. I think that's a really good question. And I think that's something that every team struggles with. I guess what I've learned most of all with hiring is that it's very much kind of a learning loop. I think it's how I talk about it in the book as well. Like, we're constantly iterating on our hiring process to get to that balance point that's needed. So I think one of the best things that we can do to make sure we're getting that balance is to kind of check in and reflect as we're going along. To see, in the book I talk about having calibration meetings, which is the hiring team coming together on a weekly or bi-weekly consistent basis to talk about, how's in the interviewing, are we asking questions that are getting us information we're needing? Is our role looking the right way? Have we advertised it and said we're looking for the right type of skills for this role? But I think those calibration sessions are important because it forces the team to come back and reflect on, how are we doing? Do we have the information we need to make a hire, or do we need to get more people involved? So I think using reflection and responding to that is really crucial. And beyond that, I think you have to make some decisions from the very beginning about how wide your hiring team really is going to be and how broad they are. Because as we all know, having like a process that's going to last months means you're most likely going to lose the candidate. And that could be somebody that's a really good addition to your organization. So I think there needs to be some discipline and rigor up front to get to that idea, like who really needs to be involved, who's best equipped to help us understand if we found somebody who is the right fit for, or is a good alignment with this role. But I'm afraid I don't have black and white rules for that, really. I can't say you should have this many number of people involved and not more than this number. But I think it's just...
Well, I think that the rule of thumb that I take from your answer is be agile about it. Have an assumption about what the panel is. Try it with a candidate or two. If you find a great one, great. If not, iterate on the process and move on.
Exactly. I talk
That's
about
the PM approach to a PM hiring process. I like it.
Exactly. Instead of looking at hiring as a linear process, which a lot of companies do, right? It's, when's the last time as product managers we've done anything that's linear? And hiring is very much the same. It's cyclical, right? And we need to give ourselves time to iterate and an opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Exactly right. Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you very much, Yaniv. And Ruth, we are eager to know what is your question.
Did you say
Yes,
Ruth?
Guten
Sorry.
Tag.
I thought it was right in front of me. Guten Tag. So first of all, thank you. The invite came at the right time because I needed to hire a diversity of people. And this is why I have 2 books, because I really wanted to make sure that I have one in time. And so now I can give one as a Christmas present. And one of the things I really, really enjoyed is I have already used a role canvas, and I'm taking a role canvas into job descriptions, into interview questions, and then into probation criteria. So you basically confirmed some of the things that I had already done. The one thing I hadn't done enough about was actually the human factor. So that was super, super good to read and then to also take into account. So looking at the fact that I'm hiring for product, for UX research, for interaction design and product analytics, and I'm totally buying into the value add and the culture add of these people, I'm wondering, what are your expectations depending on the level of experience? So how much value culture add would you expect from a junior versus a medium versus a senior?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, the more senior a hire is, from my experience, the more senior and more leadership type role that someone comes in and assumes, the more influence they have across an organization, right? So that's where I think it's essential to really focus on ensuring that the human skills that are essential for the role are really kind of considered and hired for, because that person, that leader, is going to have a big impact, most likely, on the rest of the organization. But coming at it from another angle, bringing in somebody who's more junior or at a junior level, who also who is this culture add, who adds a new dimension to your organization. I don't think we should set that aside too much just because they're a junior person, because that's where a lot of the spark and change and excitement can actually come from. And I've seen, actually, when more junior people are brought on board, and they do perhaps have like a different way of looking at things and a different kind of set of experience and skills that they're bringing, that can create a lot of energy in an organization as well. So I guess I wouldn't diminish it too much. Obviously the leadership role is going to have a lot of influence, and we want that person to have those human skills. But I think a really good junior hire with the human skills profile as well is really important. And it does kind of build from the bottom up, this new way of working within the organization.
Perfect, thank you, because this is what I'm thinking. I think you need to see this. It doesn't really matter what level, and it's not something I would expect from a senior. I think I need, and we're hiring juniors right now, and I want them to be sparkling and to kind of really bring energy in. So thank you. Good confirmation.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Great question.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Kate. And we are moving to Corina. What is your question?
Yes. So first of all, a lot of things really resonated with me in the book. It's something I've been thinking about a lot over the last few years, growing a product management team, and especially the fact that, a lot of the challenges I've had over the years were because of, lack of human skills or focus on human skills in the hiring process. So I was curious about the part in your story where, you said Pete might have not had the human skills that was really required for this particular role. Was there a discussion where, you considered bringing in a different person for this role? And it seems like you made the decision to keep Pete in this case. How did you go about kind of coaching him in those human skills? Because that's a really hard thing to do. So I'd be curious about that.
My background, I've actually taken a coaching certification course as well. So I have a little bit of, obviously a product focus, but a little more kind of experience as well, working on a broader conversation and a broader kind of need base. So that's why I guess I felt comfortable doing that work with Pete. And it was with him. He's not real, but he is the formulation of a couple of different clients that I've worked with. So I feel like and I feel like I've gotten to know him quite a bit through reading the book. But I think Pete represents kind of a typical situation that I know I've entered into many times as a consultant and coach, where you've got somebody who's been brought in who is kind of representing the midline of an organization that's going through a transformation, and they say that we want to be working, this X way, but actually we're still stuck hiring for Y, so it's quite typical. But the good thing about the Petes of the world is that once you have that conversation with them about where some of their challenges might be and where their opportunities for growth are, the Petes of the world want to make that change, right? They have that growth mindset that often comes with product managers, so in that way, it's easier to work with somebody like a Pete and to understand that, okay, this is what's going on. The team isn't very happy with you right now. Your behavior hasn't gone down so well, and that's impacting the product and the business. Where do we start? And for somebody like a Pete, it's very much starting with building self-awareness and being able to actually ask for feedback and grow in that way, and working with different teams and getting feedback from them on what's working and what's not working and things like that. So I can totally understand that it's not going to work for everyone. But if that kind of growth mindset is there and present, and the organization is committing to try to move in that direction as well, I think there's opportunity. So it's just being able to spot that opportunity, I suppose.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think, it comes down to the person being open to this feedback and also being coachable, rather than saying, it's the way I do things. I don't want to hear that feedback. So I like the notion of the growth mindset, given that the underlying values are, of course, there and the alignment there.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that. Thank you very much, Corina and Kate. And last but not least, Seema.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Can hear you perfectly.
Hello, Kate and Moriya. Thanks for the opportunity. So, Kate, Moriya, I should appreciate you because it's almost 40 minutes. It's the first time maybe I'm not talking for 40 minutes. So it goes to you.
I don't mind giving you the stage, guys. This is my superpower. I'm an enabler. I'm giving you the stage.
So now next 10 minutes is mine. Okay. So, hi, Kate. It was wonderful reading your book. And I have gone through your book as well as I have gone through your website. The book is it is a really great because it's very simple and it's very easy for people, to go through it, the processes, because and also one more thing I wanted to appreciate you, that is about your the product EQ wheel, which you have mentioned in your website. I have just gone through that. That's another amazing tool. Basically, it's completely different. Because why I'm coming to all these points, because I have 3 sets of questions. Okay, so the first one is basically, we all know that when we hire a product manager, whether we hire or we go for a role as a product manager, people or we start thinking that we are the Superman. Yeah, we are hiring a Superman who would know everything, starting from coding till the end. That's kind of, but in that process, it is important to understand the technology. It's important to understand all other things, but we really forget the emotional quotient, and there exactly it comes, especially at this moment when you have the situation, what is going on. If you don't have empathy, it is really difficult. So my question is from couple of your chapters, maybe chapter 4, 5, and 6, together. So the first, let me go from the first thing is the first step of any recruitment process or the hiring process is the screening, right? What is your opinion? I feel that the way people generally screen, I think we need to change the process, as well as a kind of, we need to educate them to really understand, like, I'm talking about those kind of HR as well as recruitment people, we really need to explain them how it should go, so the empathy is missing in the first level itself. So what's your idea about it, or what's your take? Can't hear you.
Mute.
Yeah.
I lost the connection at the end there.
So
my opinion about screening.
Yeah, the first step of the entire process. Yeah, the screening. Okay, I'll just reiterate the question again.
So as far as I heard, so the question was in the screening process. So by screening, I assume you mean by looking at CVs and resumes?
Yeah. And
how to pick.
Okay, I'll just add there a couple of points which maybe you have missed.
Just one second. I'm sorry, Seema, to jump in. It's just that we are already over time, and what we're going to do is to ask this question and then to continue in that chat, so everyone could be benefited from the other two questions that you have. And Kate, what Seema is asking is, when we are going through the screening process, there are other elements in the company, other people that are involved in it. For example, HR people. Should we educate them on our way of thinking and our way of going through the process of hiring that product professional? How much should we include them in the mindset in order to make sure that they follow that as well?
Yes. Yep. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Yes, we should definitely involve HR. It's really interesting because a lot of the organizations I work with, the HR recruiters want to know more about product. They're really interested in understanding kind of what would make a good product candidate. And that obviously includes EQ and mindset and things we've talked about tonight. So we do need to bring them along for the conversation. And actually, they're one of the, probably not the primary audience for my book, but a secondary audience, because I've received so many questions from HR people in the past around how do we hire product people? What do we look for? Where do we even begin? So that's also why, with the role canvas workshop that we talked about just a few minutes ago, have the recruiter involved in that, because then they can see and hear what's the purpose of the role, what's the accountabilities, and what kind of skills do they need, and they can actually become more of a partner to you versus somebody that is just, as I talk about in the book with the example that I've seen so many times, they just kind of cut and paste the job descriptions together and put it up there, and then you get all these random candidates, right? So I think it's kind of our duty to help them and educate them and bring them along in the journey.
Yep. Thank you.
That's perfect. And we're going to continue that in the chat. Don't worry, Kate and Seema. Everyone is going to be benefited from these two other questions. Don't worry. And of course, the rest of the guys here, if you have any more questions, so Kate will join us in the chat. This is the time to say thank you to you, Kate Leto, for joining us and for the books. Thank you, Corina Stukan. Thank you, Amit Bandita, Ruth Gutov-Reckengel, Yaniv Yakubovich, Chen Shir, Zvika Solan, Kurt Prince, Seema Chatterjee. Thank you so much, guys. You are truly product leaders who inspire us to hire more product professionals to our teams the right way. Thank you very much for sharing your concerns and challenges and real thoughts about the subject with us. Again, Kate, thank you for the answers, and I can't wait to have you all on our next event together. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.